Markets have been trying to claw their way back the last 3 trading sessions after the sell-off we saw at the end of last week. The S&P up 0.73% today, closing at 6345.06. When we look at the volume across the SPX options chain, we are still seeing a negative skew in the daily distribution. You can see the volume across all of these strikes all the way down below the 6200 level. That negative skew suggests market participants still have a little bit of concern and are not fully buying into this rally attempt. We still have a ways to go to get back up to all-time highs above 6400, so we'll see if the market has enough momentum to get back up to those levels. And let's just take a quick look at the Qs, up 1.26% today, closing at 567.32. After today's trading action, we did see gamma exposure at the 580 strike reasserting itself, and so it does appear that a little bit of volume coming in at that level. But the crucial thing is that open interest at the 580 strike is holding on strong. And so these are market participants positioning for a move into the coming weeks up into this 580 level. So the trend technically is still intact here. The question is, are we going to see some further downside into this 50-day EMA? This is the same picture we're looking at on the S&P 500. We think a potential move down into that 50-period moving average on the daily chart is a likely scenario, and so we are maintaining hedges just in case we do see another 2 to 3% dip.
Anthony, I was glad we were able to take advantage of the intraday GEX setup, even with not a lot of movement happening at certain points of the day. First thing in the morning, we posted that SPX had 2 large GEX clusters, one at 6,300 on the negative side and one at 6,350. And of course, we waited patiently and the market chose its direction. But once it reached 63.50, we didn't see GEX growing above that. So I took a short trade and posted as I took that trade. And less than an hour later, it worked out with a $500 gain. And of course, throughout the day, I was keeping an eye on where the indices were in relation to the indicators that I like to use. And it was a little bit of an opposite day today. We had IWM down while QQQ and SPX were positive. But one thing I noticed that has me on watch for this rally to possibly continue is that even today's decline with IWM could not overcome the whole moving average at 219 to the downside. So the whole has been declining. It crossed under the current price. And even though we do have a red candle today, IWM is now holding above that. And we also saw SPX and QQQ close above the whole. Now, SPX didn't close very far above it, so it's not very convincing yet. But we're still in this situation of indecision and risk in both directions. So make sure you have a game plan if we break in one direction or another.
Thanks, Sean. Let's take a look at XHB, the home builders ETF, down 0.68% today, closing at 106.53. XHB is one of those names that is not as exciting as a lot of the other ETFs, even sector ETFs. However, we found that this actually makes for a really great weekly income strategy. We have a set of weekly income strategies that we are continually rolling and adding. You've heard us talk a lot about our GLD weekly income strategy in previous videos. Well, we just recently added XHB, and if you look at the gamma exposure picture, gamma exposure concentrated between 105 and 115, so really nice upward trajectory. You can see the 50-day EMA sitting at 101.55. And just yesterday, we actually exited our short XHB puts. We had previously sold the 103 puts. We closed those out yesterday for $1,770 profit and rolled up to the 108 puts for this Friday's expiration. So we continue to hold the long side of our strategy. We have the September 19th 103 puts on the long side. For now, we will end up rolling those if price continues to move higher. And just as a side note, this is our XHB weekly income strategy sub-thread in our community Discord. And you can see in our previous post, we originally sold these August 8 103 puts for $2.02. So yesterday, closing those out, this was a very short trade, just in it for a few trading sessions. But yesterday, closing those out at 25 cents. And this is basically how these weekly income strategies are designed to work. Ideally, they're just like 1 to 5 day type of trades on the short leg, and then you roll the short leg out either to the next expiration or up the options chain, depending on the price movement. So in our view, as long as XHB maintains positive gamma exposure and maintains in this upward trajectory above the 50-day EMA, we're going to continue this strategy with further potential upside in mind. By the way, you can follow along with all of our weekly income strategies as well as our trades in general as we manage our options portfolio by becoming a member at geeksoffinance.com, link in the description below.
Anthony, I think another mark in favor of the bulls today is the fact that the VIX closed below the whole moving average considerably at 1677 compared to the whole at 1751. Now, 17 is still the largest GEX cluster, but you can see we had volume at the 15.5 area. I think the VIX will spend limited time at the 15 to 16 area if we do get there. The 2-hour chart also shows the lower Kellner channel at 1566, right between where we saw the volume at 15.5 and the big GEX cluster that we see at 16. So we do see some indicators pointing to the VIX maybe having a bias more toward the downside at the moment, which would presumably go along with the market moving higher.
I wanted to take another look at AMD. We had looked at it yesterday right after the earnings release as we were doing our video, and just wanted to take another quick look today, being down 6.42%, closing at 163.12. We actually saw the low of the day for AMD dipping below the 160 level and bouncing. So still buyers stepping up here. We were mentioning the importance of that 160 level holding. We actually thought that might take a few more days to occur. One of the things we're looking for is a long entry point around the 160 level. We have the 50-day EMA, which is rising. Currently, it's at 145.92. One of the interesting things about the gamma exposure picture after today is that we're still seeing quite a bit of open interest remaining at the 180 and the 200 strike. So way up here, it does appear that market participants are still playing to the long side for AMD. So despite the slightly disappointing earnings release, we are still above the 50-day EMA and maintaining this upward trend. So there may be a few more days of consolidation around this 160 level. And if so, we're going to use this as a launching point to initiate a new position in AMD, perhaps out into the September 19th expiration, basically targeting a return to highs somewhere between the 180 and the 200 level in the coming weeks. Earlier we were mentioning the skew in options volume in the SPX options chain. AMD also has a skew, but this time it is to the upside. And so we're not seeing a lot of interest below this 160 level in the options chain. All of the interest, at least in terms of volume activity today, is above 160, and that's a key factor in pointing to potential further upside. So there may be a few more sellers left in AMD after the earnings release who are looking to lock in profits up here, but we think this is a pretty good opportunity to initiate a long position, giving this some time to work up into new highs.
Thanks, Anthony. The emerging markets did catch my attention today. I have EEM pulled up. And we don't usually take a look at this name, but it is interesting that it seems to have a very positive GEX picture at the moment, with a focus roughly 2% higher at the 50 strike, with EEM holding over the whole moving average at 48.71 and the large GEX cluster at 50, which is roughly 2% higher. Even if we do see some downside down the road, it looks like there's a setup here for a move toward this 50 strike that also matches with the upper Kellner channel. So there's some confluence with the indicators that I use for a move higher.
And for a limited time, you can get $300 off our yearly Portfolio Manager tier subscription. Use code SUMMER2025 at checkout. We do have a few spots remaining, but this promotion will be ending soon, so take advantage of it while you can. Members get full access to our gamma exposure dashboard, our option flow analytics tools, as well as our algorithmic trading strategies. And you'll also get access to the premium channels in our community Discord. We've got a ton of great traders in there sharing their own trade setups and strategies. And you can also track our trades in real time as we manage our options portfolio. Links in the description below to all of that. Definitely check that out when you get a chance. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching. We'll see you guys in the next video.